Try to find and see how you can live your life to the most point that is you. God has a path for you to walk yourself that no one else defines but you, and that is what you can do. When I was 19, I really started to take a self-reflection of myself because I was unique, I was different, very confident, and I had a heart defect. You start to think, why have things happened to me the way that they have up to this point, and what is the reason for it? Why? The reason for my why was not for me. It wasn't for me. My heart defect was so that my mother, my father, my church, our friends, our family, the people that were around us. And you have to come to terms with, this is the path that was chosen for you. You don't understand that as a teenager, but know and understand that God is good.
Welcome to the Keeping Your Power Real Talk on Resilience podcast. I'm your host, Tracidoula. I'm a family and birth advocate, a mentor, and your personal encourager. I wanted to create the space for individuals, families, and professionals who are done with just surviving and want to rise. Because when everything feels like it's falling apart, the one thing the world can't take from you is your power. And that's where resilience begins. It's not just riding the waves or surviving the storms. It's about how to overcome the challenges. So whether you're in the thick of it or reflecting on where you've been, pull up a chair and let's navigate the hard conversations and the beautiful stories that together we can be honest and use empathy and have a desire to grow, all while, of course, keeping your power in the process. When my oldest son, Christopher, was just 2 months old, he underwent open heart surgery for a congenital heart defect called Tetralogy of Fallot. In this episode, he shares his journey of navigating life. Although he had heart surgery at a young age, this did not slow him down. Join us to hear Christopher's encouragement to every parent that a health diagnosis for a child doesn't mean life is over. There is hope, resilience, and of course, keeping your power in the process. Hey, kiddo, welcome. This is Christopher. This is my oldest son. You are how old?
About to turn 33. I am 32.
I have a 32, almost 33-year-old. Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. I was 19 when I had Christopher, and he was born with a congenital heart defect. It didn't have anything to do with the pregnancy, anything to do with the birth. So I'm excited about you being here. Thank you for sitting down with your mom.
It's the first ever time being on a podcast,
and a podcast with your
with
mom.
my mother. Yes.
Well, it's gonna be fun. I wanted to sit down with you because I feel like it's significant to talk about diagnoses that maybe not even a heart defect or a congenital heart defect, but just a diagnosis of a child, and then parents listening to this, because I'm going to talk about my side too. And then I just want to get into your head how your childhood was. Not how I affected your childhood.
That'll be another episode.
We can talk about that too if you want to. I'm not scared. I'm apologetic. I know. He's saving up for therapy later, but again, this was not diagnosed. I didn't know that you were going to be to have this. The birth was a typical. And I say typical, it wasn't necessarily typical on some levels, but typical meaning long, drawn out. But your heart rate did start going down during the pushing phase. I had somebody on top of me pushing to help me push you out because it was it was long. You came out. So when a baby comes out, we are looking for good tone, good color, trying to breathe, those kind of things. And it's not unusual for a baby not to cry when they come out, but I saw a midwife hand you off really quickly, and a nurse stood in front of me right here. I could not see them, but I could hear them suctioning you out. You were those kind of sounds. And I'm like, everything okay? Everything okay? Did hear you cry. They wrapped you up and they brought you to me, and I kind of did this with you. And the nurse said, we're going to take him to, to the nursery. We'll meet you later. Well, back in the 90s, because you were born in 92, that's what happened. And so I didn't really ask any questions. So hours later, when I was wheeled to my room, they had a neonatologist had come in and said, hey, Christopher's having a really hard time transitioning just to outside oxygen. We're going to just give him time. So I was like, I'm going to go back to sleep. I didn't know what questions to ask. And I was really kind of like, okay, that's, and I didn't realize that you were in the NICU at this point, because later on I found out they had taken you to the well baby nursery and it was full. And then the only reason why you went to the NICU is because it was full. Then they were just discovering that you were having a hard time transitioning. Now, I have done some research on people that have gone through therapy, and it sounds very woo-woo to some people, doing EMDR and those kind of things, and feeling their birth stories and feeling themselves as a baby. How far back do you remember? Do you remember, how far back can you recall anything happening?
At hospitals or doctors, I can remember everything after my scar got infected.
Okay.
When I was that when I was 5?
That was 5.
I remember my scar getting infected. I remember, because I would pick at it, and then it ended up getting infected, and then I remember going to the doctor then.
Okay.
But before then, I can't really remember very much before then.
Okay.
But I vividly remember scar getting infected, needing surgery, UAB. I remember my heart was beating so much during that whole trip, they had to sedate me and all. I remember all of that. Okay, but I don't remember before then.
Okay, so let's fill in a little bit of the pieces, for specifically parents. That's a comforting thing, I think, as a parent, to realize that, okay, you're not totally traumatized by an NICU stay, because you did have open heart surgery at 2 months. You were diagnosed with Tetralogy of Fallot, and that's 4 different defects. What are those for? We'll help each other. First of all, we're not doctors. And
absolutely not.
And yes, I'm an educator, but I'm a birth educator. And I want to encourage everyone out there is the translation of what's going on, might be very different than scientifically, like what the understanding is might be different than what the scientifically it is. But to our understanding and what your cardiologist and your surgeon, told us, because I got a lot of knowledge of what was happening because of what the surgeon told me. So, okay. So the 4 different things that are going on.
And one of the big things that Dr. Johnson told me, I'm very thankful for him, and things that he explained to me as we went back, a year after year, or then it was 3 years, and then it was 5 years, or whatever, the time periods. I think those are the time periods for the defects specifically. So you've got 4. The left side of my heart grew bigger than the right side of my heart
because of the flow.
So I got one side of my heart bigger, and the flow was off because the center wall did not form properly. And since the center wall did not form, that's what caused it to basically one side did what it was supposed to, and the other side didn't do squat at all. And then with that hole in the middle, when they ended up patching that was what ended up causing the backsplash. And the backsplash is every single time my heart pumps, a little bit of blood comes back. And every time the little bit of blood comes back, the next pump, my heart has to work harder and pump harder. Not necessarily faster, but harder to get that extra blood out.
And then the 4th thing was the thickening at the bottom of the heart that your surgeon told me that they removed, and actually they can use that scar tissue to help with the patch. And so after your surgery at 2 months, I was told that you were probably good to go. And it would just be a wait and see kind of thing. Some kids needed extra surgery, some kids did not. But the symptoms of a congenital heart defect for parents is, maybe breastfeeding doesn't go as well. Maybe there's gasping for air. Maybe there's turning blue. Back in like the 70s and 80s, they called these kids blue babies because of the backsplash and the oxygenation didn't get into the blood. So that's what I was watching for. I was watching for you to cry uncontrollably, turn blue, all the things hovered over you, and barely slept those 2 months after that diagnosis, but none of that happened. You were not a very good breastfeeder. You were not a very good nurser, but you did not lose weight. But some of that diagnosis is babies don't gain weight very well because they're not great feeders, no matter where the mode of transportation is coming from with the milk. It doesn't matter, bottle fed or breastfed. It's just because you can't breathe very well. Going through that process was really hard on us as parents at that time, because your dad worked through that, because if he didn't work, he didn't get paid. And so me and your grandma went and stayed, for even a couple of weeks, because we were there even for a little bit before your surgery, and we were there for a week after. And I'm talking to the parents out there that have had babies or kids that have gone through surgery. Nothing prepares you for that. Nothing prepares you for even them showing me pictures, right? Like, pictures of what is Christopher going to look like when he comes out. So I knew that you were going to be intubated. I knew that you were going to have things breathing for you. I knew that they had to wean you off the medicine, and I knew that things were going to be coming out of your chest. And so when we went, in to see you, I had the most calming sense of what was going on, though, because God is really good. There were a lot of people praying for you, and a lot of people praying for us as parents. And we were young. We might have not known, really, because we were so young. That's the resilience that I talk about on this podcast, is just, honing into people that are supporting you, your faith in God, and, making sure that you're not doing it alone, and nobody prepares you for it. And when people say, oh, you're so strong, and yes, God is good, it is okay to cry in the bathroom and fall apart as a parent, because nobody prepares you for anybody looking at you saying, your son's going to have open heart surgery, and then you have to, wrap your head around that. So you were allergic to whatever medicines they gave you. And one day we did go into the NICU at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama. And you did not have surgery at Children's. You had surgery at UAB, which I'm very thankful for. You had a renowned surgeon work on you. And he's been since retired for a long time, but we got one of the best, Dr. Pacific.
So the rumor is that I was one of his last 5.
Yeah,
that he ever did.
Were. And he told me that. He's like, I'm done, after this week or so. He told me that he was going to be a concert pianist and decided to be a pediatric cardiology surgeon. And so I was just very thankful for him, because I do believe that he is the reason, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I believe that he is the reason that your repair has been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you did well. I was a little bit angry at some of the care that I got, because I was not told that I should just continue to breastfeed you. We just automatically put you on formula. And I'm really heartbroken by that, because the very best thing that I could have done for you, immunity wise and whatever, was to continue the breastfeeding journey. But neither here nor there. It taught me a lot, and it taught me just educational processes going forward. But we did go back. I think we went back a year after, and then he said he did the echocardiogram every time, and then he said, let's not go back for 3 years. And then even after that, it was the 5-year mark, and you say you remember your scar because you got this little bubble at the end of your incision, and you messed with it. And what it was is it was a stitch from your sternum when they wired your sternum, because open heart surgery, chainsaw, sort of.
You got your zipper. You got the zipper. Yeah. And I had at the very bottom, I had a couple of pieces that would stick out. And actually, still, there's a spot on my skin up at the top to where you can tell that there had been, most of it has faded now. Most of it has very well faded, but there's a couple of spots that are still, you can definitely tell is like, yeah, that was definitely there.
You can't use it.
Especially the section in the middle where it was all infected.
Uh-huh.
You
Right.
can definitely tell there, but most of the like the railroad tracks have faded. A lot of that has faded.
Yeah. And you got a couple of infections and they cultured them to see if it was
Mhm.
staph and those kind of things. Still put you on antibiotic because I think the 80s and 90s was just antibiotic happy to
Yep.
be completely
Yep.
honest. But then that bottom one just would never go away. And I think it was
Mhm.
a stitch that was trying to come through or, something that didn't dissolve. So you remember going and having that removed.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that? Because that was a pretty eventful appointment
Yeah.
for you.
I remember that my chest really hurt, but it wasn't hurting in one spot. It hurt like all over. And I remember having to get in the car and to drive because we lived in Montgomery,
Mhm.
and we had to drive to the doctor, and that took forever. And I remember not knowing what was going to happen there, but I remember that it was supposed to help me.
Mhm.
Like I didn't remember what was gonna. I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I remember having this thought and this idea of, okay, when I go here, it's supposed to help me. It's supposed to fix this. One of the things that the doctors actually have said, and you remember from having any kind of surgery. You remember the smells. You
Mhm.
remember the lights. You remember the ground. Those type of things, aesthetics. Even to this day, like with certain cleaners. I recognize certain hospital cleaners that they use.
Mhm.
I don't like, and it's not like a, ooh, I'm petrified thing. It's
Mhm.
more of like I don't enjoy it with blue latex gloves. I
Okay.
don't like blue latex gloves. It's not like a, get it away from me type of thing. It's like that's uncomfortable.
So let's talk about that appointment when you had the thing at the bottom removed.
So I remember going in, I remember them talking about he needs surgery. And when the doctor said he needs surgery, I remember my heart rate going through the roof. Remind me if there was any students there that day.
I think there was.
I remember a group of people
Mhm.
were kind of around me, and I'm sitting
Mhm.
on the end of this long doctor's table,
Mhm.
and I'm kicking my feet, and he's like, yeah, he needs surgery. And I stopped, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And like, I remember my heart rate immediately, like nerves kicked in,
Yeah.
adrenaline kicked in. I remember everybody left.
Mhm.
And after everybody left, I don't really remember much there. But after everybody left, the next thing I remember was laying on the bed, and my heart was really, really hard.
Mhm.
Like it was beating really, 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 really hard.
Mhm.
And then I remember them giving me some medicine, and y'all, I was asleep. I was gone, gone. And then I don't really remember much after that.
Yeah, because, that was an outpatient thing, and
Yeah.
it was a teaching hospital. So there was
Mhm.
always the joke, we always joked about, "We're gonna charge admission for all of these people in there." And I really
Yep.
am surprised that because you were only 5, and I'm surprised that you even remember that day. After that, you had little stitches in the body, a little bit little stitches that weren't gonna dissolve, and you had to
Mhm.
have those taken out. Do you remember that appointment?
Oh, yes. That was with Mr. Dr. Glover, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it
No?
mm-mm, I think
No, it was at that.
it was still in Birmingham.
It was still in Birmingham?
Mhm. It was still in Birmingham,
Okay.
and it was just one of those days where they did a clinic, and we could just show up whenever we wanted to, but we still had to wait and wait. Your dad was with us in that time.
I don't remember that, but I remember him pulling them out. All I remember about that day, I vaguely remember waiting room. I finally get my stitches out today, and they'll stop itching
Yeah.
because it was itching. It was itching. It was so bad. I remember just
itching. These things are like, you can't itch it. You got to stop itching it. And I'm like, but just get them out. Just get them out. And so I remember laying down on the little patient bed.
Mm-hmm.
And did he say he was taking them out?
I don't know. I wasn't in there. I wasn't in there.
See, I don't remember him
Yeah.
telling me he was taking them
Yeah,
out.
I don't
I don't
think
remember
so.
anything.
Yeah.
But that was a memorable experience
Yeah,
for
I
me.
remember you coming out because I couldn't. There was only one parent that could go back, and I think
So
sisters
what
were with us.
happened? What happened? Talking to Dad, and I'm laying there, and he's talking to Dad, and he puts his hand on top of my head, and he put his hand on top of my head, and he grabbed the bottom stitches and went, and all up went,
Mm-hmm.
and they all ripped out, and I started bleeding, but it didn't hurt. It was one of those, oh, that felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know I didn't know that he was gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was one of those things that was like, okay, you could have warned me, thanks.
Yeah. This is one
type of thing.
This is one of those parenting things that I really wish I could go back and redo, because I think your sisters were with us too. That's why I stayed in the waiting room, and then Dad took you back. And you come out and you're like, I didn't know he was going to do it. I didn't know he was going to do it. And this is that 5-year-old little mind, because the thing that they took off at the bottom that they stitched up, you're saying he pulled it out and it was long. It was not that long, right? It was only like that much, but to a
but on a 5-year-old, it was like that was like the whole length of my chest.
Yes.
But it wasn't. It wasn't that big.
I wish we had been better at explaining why we're here, what we're doing, what to expect, because you at that point were exhibiting a lot of anxiety around hospitals and physicians and dentists, and going,
hated it.
Even when we would go see people in the hospital, like, that were friends, and we weren't even there for you. I remember you were probably 6 or 7, and we went to the hospital to go visit somebody from church, and we walked in the door and you stopped, and you're looking at me, and I'm like, come on, buddy, let's go. Come on, Christopher, let's go. Because you were you're still very happy, but you were a very happy-go-lucky kid. Like, you were happy pretty much all the time. You were 90 to nothing. You were jumping around. You were very active, and you stopped, and you're like deer in headlights, and you're like, Mom, I can't. I can't. So I took you and your sisters, and we sat in the van while your dad went to visit, because you literally could not physically, put yourself in that position. And I, of course, then I was like, even your pediatrician, Dr. Glover, who's been retired for a while, said, he is going to have some reservations about some medical care in the future. And boy, was he right. He was absolutely right.
Absolutely.
I really wish that we had done better at, this is what this is for, especially that one appointment with the stitches, because that could have gone very badly, for you.
Yeah.
Like, you could have, that could have stuck in your head for a while. Like, I wish y'all had just told me, what was going on. What about dentists? How did you feel about dentists?
Oh God, no. I hate dentists. Hate dentists. And I don't know, dentists are completely different. So it's like, there should not be any connection. There should not be any connections between a dentist and a cardiologist, and the fear and the anxiety part of it, but there is.
Yeah, the body.
And it's like, I don't know why. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But your teeth are directly related to your heart health. On some level, when you get your teeth worked on, your heart is directly related to your teeth. Subconsciously, I mean, y'all can go out there and look at it and do all of that kind of research. I hated the dentist growing up. Still hate it, but I mean, I would, when I knew there was a dentist appointment, I would dread. I would count the days, and I would dread it. I would hate it.
Yep.
And then I would get so nervous going there. When I was there, I would pass out. And after I passed out, I would wake up and I would end up throwing up everything that I had eaten. And none of the dentists wanted to actually see me, because I'd end up throwing up all over them.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so we had to go to a couple of different
We
dentists,
did.
which
We sure did.
was a trial in and of itself, because I would finally get to where I would be sort of okay with going to one, but then they wouldn't want to see me anymore, and then I have to go to another one.
Well, and there's some pediatric dentists that didn't want, and this again is in the 90s, didn't want to take care of you having a congenital heart defect.
Right.
And
right, because
it was
I
all
had
about-
to take meds for my heart before I went, and actually there was a pack. It was a pack of meds that I would take all the way up to, and if I had actual work done, I had to have more meds after, because of infection. Because if I got infected in my mouth, it would go straight to my heart.
Now, the protocol was antibiotics before, and then yes, the procedure was antibiotics before, antibiotics after. Your poor gut, man. Your poor gut.
Oh, it was miserable. It was miserable. It was miserable. I remember the pink. It was pink.
Yep.
It was always pink and strawberry.
Yep.
But
the protocol has changed since then. It changed actually, like when you got older and into teenage years. But let's talk about your heart defect in itself as an adolescent. So as a parent, I'm all like, should I strap him to his room?
You wanted to.
Do I let him out?
You wanted to.
Yeah, and it's like, how, as a parent, how do you confine a child that is all out physically all the time? You would run in our house, and we had a house that you would run down the hallway, and you would run through the kitchen and run around and jump over the couch and just do roughhouse in a very, you were a very good child. If I told you to stop, you would, go play Legos, Christopher. I'm not saying that you were a bad kid or anything like that. You were just very active. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And your pediatrician, your surgeon, your cardiologist all looked at me and said, treat him like a normal child. He is fine. Here's the symptoms that you're going to look for. But these symptoms of his defect, now you were in repair mode at 2 months. So we were looking for, shortness of breath and turning blue and fainting, all the big things. They said, now if he's doing the big things, then you rush him to the ER, then there's something going on with his repair. But don't treat him with kid gloves and tell him he can't do anything, because that's going to be a detriment to Christopher.
So I remember us having a conversation. I don't know how little it was, but you would tell me, you were like, if you don't feel okay, tell me.
Yeah.
But you also said you did a good job with, and I can't remember how you worded it, but you kind of said, like, I'm not going to bug you, but if something's wrong, tell me. People would always ask me, what's it like having a heart defect, and what's normal? And I was like, I don't know what normal feels like. I don't know what everyone else feels like. I know what it feels like with my heartbeat. I have an irregular heartbeat. I know what it feels like after I run a mile. I know what it feels like after I play a full soccer game. I don't know what that feels like for you. I am told that it is harder on a normal day for me is harder on my body than a normal day for a normal person.
Okay.
Just because of the enlarged portion of my heart and the fact that it has to work harder to pump that extra blood out.
But a lot of heart patients feel very tired at the end of the day. Now, when you were growing up, from a parent perspective, I didn't see that, but did you feel that?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
It depends on the day. Some days I would.
Okay.
Some days I would not. I did not become aware of it until high school and college.
Okay.
But adolescence.
Yeah, because you were an active kid. Like you and your friends, like you and Riley and all those kids, y'all were going all the time. So as a parent, I figured, hey, if something's going on, I'm going to see a characteristic change. And the times that I did see the characteristic changes, you were sick, like you had the stomach virus or but it was never like heart related. So I kind of put it out of my mind in that, yes, I was constantly praying for not to worry and God's protection and, all of those things. And if there was something that was going to come up, please for us to be aware. But, did you worry about it? Were there times that you were
no.
like...
No. I mean, I like I said before, I started playing soccer when I was 5, and it was the furthest thing from my mind. The furthest thing from my mind. I played all through middle school, all through high school, played through college. Did not play my senior year in college, but it was, even through all stages of playing soccer, furthest thing from my mind. Never once was like, am I going to be able to perform or keep up because I have a heart defect?
Yeah.
And that was something that I just wasn't there. No.
I remember going, I think it was either your 10-year-old appointment or maybe your 12, but I remember you being in that age range. And
I think it was closer to 14.
Okay.
I think it was closer to 14. We're sitting there in the doctor's office, and he's like, "So, Chris, what do you do for fun, man?" I'm like, "I play soccer." He's like, "Oh, yeah, you go out in the backyard and you kick it with your dad." I said, "No, I'm on a team." He's like, "Oh, okay."
And then I'm like, are we not supposed to do that?
Yeah. He's like, "Do you sit on the bench?" I said, "No, I'm a starter." And he was like,
"I'm a forward, man."
Okay. So I did some research, and turns out that Shaun White has the same heart defect.
Okay.
And then there was an African soccer player who actually had the same defect, played through professional soccer, all of that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Which was kind of cool. I found that and I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. But no, that doctor, Johnson looked at me and he was just like,
right. I remember that, and my heart sank, and I was like, you told me to treat him like a normal kid. He's being a normal kid.
He's running 6 miles at practice now.
Yeah, and
laps after.
I remember him asking you questions like, are you ever short of breath? Do you ever have to sit down? Do you ever, and you were like, nope, I'm good, bro.
Never had to.
And he's like, okay, well, keep doing what you're doing. And so it was a really big encouragement. But even before that, I think it was like the time before that, when he said, I don't want to see you back for 5 years. And so the spread of the years that we saw your doctor was like such a huge celebration for me. And I remember driving home in that one when he said, I don't want to see him for 5 years. It was before that 14-year one. And I don't want to see him.
I think it was 8 or 9. I was either 8 or 9 when I went somewhere around there.
And he's like, I don't want to see him for a while. And I'm like, I'm crying. I'm just like joyfully crying. And your dad's like,
we're driving home and Mom's just bawling in the seat, in the passenger seat.
And
I'm just going like, is Mom okay?
Yes, we made it because it just made me realize that you're doing great. And I was just so very thankful for God's grace and, for just all of it, because you never were worried about it. And I know that was God's grace, and maybe your age, I don't know, but it was just such a good thing to feel and to go through. And, just to know that we had some really good doctors and people taking care of you.
Absolutely.
And it was just because if you had not been able to do what you wanted to do, and I know that there's parents out there that watch their kids every day and not being able to do what they do. And it's just heartbreaking. It is just absolutely heartbreaking. And you played soccer and you played with your sisters and you played with your friends and you never had to be left out. Not for soccer anyway. Y'all might've been mean to each other, left each other out.
Yeah.
But then you became like a teenager. And of course it was like, there were hormones and there was, yes, you were still playing soccer all the time, but so did you start feeling like there were days that you were like really, really drained?
There were times after games where I would want to come home and go straight to bed. I remember that. I remember being very heavy Not tired. My limbs would be heavy. My muscles would be heavy. My head would be heavy. And I do remember that. I think that has to do with more of the circulation. And because when I was little, my feet would get cold. My feet would get freezing cold. And then, but as I got into the teenage years, I do remember after some games, I would be kind of wiped out.
Okay.
But then I do remember coming home, taking a nap, or even going to bed, and then getting up and being perfectly fine.
And being good.
And then, like, there was nothing that affected me. I mean, there was nothing. I do remember being very hungry.
Well, I
very,
think that was
very,
just
very hungry.
Yeah, that was just.
I don't know if that had. Yeah.
No.
Well, they did say that my metabolism was going to be faster.
Yeah.
But it was teenage years too. So, like, I ate everything that I could get my hands on.
Right. And let's talk about your. So you don't feel like, because you didn't. No short of breath, no like turning blue, no, maybe the tiredness because of that, maybe the circulation. But let's talk about your tremors, because I homeschooled y'all. I was with y'all 24 hours, 7 days a week most of the time. I feel like we love each other still.
Most days.
Yeah. But you did have a tremor. And I feel like in your high school years too, 16, 17, 18, before you went to college, you started really paying attention to your nutrition also, because there were times where you were so athletic and you're like, if I'm going to be this athletic, I've got to eat well. And you did have a high metabolism and you were eating all the time. So what you put in your body needed to be of value. And then it was the, caffeine part of it. Because we all know that I really loved back in the day. Okay.
Oh, God.
Back in the day, Mountain Dew.
God, addiction, the very definition of addiction. If you look at go on YouTube, look up a Mountain Dew commercial from like early 2000s, you're gonna see my mother. You're gonna see my mother in that commercial. I guarantee you.
When you want people to expose you, you want people to know about you, just have a kid on a podcast, and they'll.
I'm just saying.
So yes, like Mountain Dew was readily available, in our house, but that wasn't it, because you were like, I don't feel anxious. I'm not really sure that this is the caffeine. So let's talk about your triggers. I mean, your tremors and what you found out about those.
Right. So I remember it first started coming about when I was writing.
Okay.
Because remember, my handwriting was atrocious.
Yeah.
And then trying to learn cursive. Back in the day, guys, we had to learn cursive. Okay. Y'all don't have to do that now, but I was homeschooled and learned cursive. Okay. So numbers, and I remember after long extended periods of time of writing, my hands would shake. And certain amounts of fatigue that I would put on my body doing writing, my hands would just absolutely just start shaking. And then I do remember, and I didn't know why.
Right.
I thought it was just like, I just hated writing, and I just hated writing.
Right.
But
I thought it was like an anxiety thing.
And we said, we closely because the body, and from what I have discovered through the years, a heart patient's body that experiences the tremoring from his heartbeat can be caused by a valve closing over another valve. And when that happens, your body is going to respond almost like anxiety. So you're going to get a little bit of shaking, on edge feeling. You're going to get like the, oh my goodness, kind of feeling, like your muscles want to contract, but they're not contracting, type of thing. I remember bouncing my leg a lot. I was a leg bouncer. Leg bouncer.
You sure were.
Just to keep, and I remember I was always moving because I couldn't sit still, because that feeling, I want to move, that tremoring was wanting to come through my muscles. And I moved so much because that got rid of that feeling.
Right. And maybe that's why you were so active when you were younger too.
That got me being able to move so much, got rid of that feeling. In college, when sitting through classes, I remember having a lot of the same borderline of, I feel anxious, but I'm not anxious, and I don't have anxiety. This is my heart.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this was related to, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't learn that. I didn't learn that until college.
Okay. So, and you talked to your doctor about it. Did you talk to Dr. Johnson about it?
Yes. So I talked to him more about that. Not the last time I went, the time before that. I think I was in my 20s, 2021, somewhere in there. And I had gone and I was like, hey, here's a couple of things that are going on. I was worried about high blood pressure because I had chronic migraines, but that was actually related to eyesight and actually some problems with my teeth. I thought it was related to my heart. He's like, no, it's not related to your heart. Because we did a couple of things, a couple of tests, and he's like, no, it's not related to your heart. And then I talked to him. I was like, hey, so talk to me about tremors. Talk to me about anxiety feeling, a feeling of dread. And then I said, because this is something I also experienced, do heart defect patients experience any kind of lucid dreams associated with their heart? And actually they do. One of the things that would happen to me is if I felt extremely tired, if I had a hard day of, because in college my schedule was ridiculous. I worked a full-time job, I had a full class schedule, and I played soccer. It was way too much for someone who's a normal person, much less a heart patient. That was all my choice. Don't look at my mother. It's totally okay. It was all my choice. It was all my choice because I wanted to finish. I wanted to try to finish debt free, and I wanted to play soccer at the same time. So there were days where I would get back and I would just be so just drained and wasted. And I would have this feeling of like impending dread, like my body was almost being threatened. And I would go to sleep and I would feel extremely heavy. And if I was in this exhaustion state, I would always have a lucid dream every time. And come to find out, that was related to the same thing that with the tremors. It was just the way that your heart rhythm was, the way that my heartbeat was. And I learned about it and was like, oh, this is just how this is. How do I counteract this?
Right.
A lot of it, like you said, turned into dieting. A lot of it because I was always fit, but a lot of it has to do with less sugar, better things that you can digest that are good for your body, more protein, all of that good stuff. I cut out caffeine when I was a junior in college, night and day difference. So like and I'll say anxiety level, but the tremor level grossly dropped.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And of course, when you went off to college, even when you were in high school, you were not home a whole lot during the summers because you did camp. You were camp counselor, camp whatever. Y'all did a lot of camp stuff and worked at camp. And then when you were in college, kind of same. You weren't home like super often, but I saw a huge difference after you changed the way that your diet went, and you said sleeping, and then the chronic migraines, and then that was later on you had to research even more because that didn't necessarily stop. But you experienced specifically in college a lot of depression too. Right. Do you think that had a lot to do with your heart defect?
Not necessarily, but at some points, the depression was more along the lines of, I grew up with 3 sisters. Okay. I did not have any brothers. I was the firstborn. I was the chosen one, always will be. So growing up, there was always someone around.
There was.
Okay. Growing up, there was always someone around. Growing up, there was always...
There was some chaos.
There was something to do. There was soccer practice. There was piano practice for my sisters. There was violin practice for my other sister. There was, hey, you got to watch after the other sister that's not doing anything so she doesn't burn the house down. And
that's pretty accurate.
and don't convince her that FedEx dropped her off at the front door. Growing up and going to college was a transition of there's not necessarily going to always be someone by your side, but you can still accomplish the things that you need to accomplish in life. And also the college that I attended, which is a completely different story and completely different topic we can talk about on a different time. There were also, it was very cliquish. It was very inclusive and exclusive for certain things or for whatever it may be. And so I experienced a lot of exclusivity. You know, I'm never one who wanted to, I was never one who wanted to be in the in crowd because I'm different. I have a heart defect. I'm different. I don't want to be like you. So that was something that I remember taking my shirt off for the first time in the college dressing room. I'm the only one with a zipper scar. Okay. So I take my shirt off and we're all in there and a couple of the guys are like, what's that? You know? And the first time it happened, I was like, bar fight, man. We don't talk about it. And he looks at me and he's like, no. Like, no, man. And then as the years went on and I played the next year and the next year, we'd get freshmen in. And when we would get freshmen in, I'd take my shirt, you know, we're in the dressing room, we're dressing for a game or for practice. And one of them, it never happened every year. What's up with the, and I would always come up with some kind of witty remark. I would always come up with, man, dude, I was at the zoo and dude, this lion got out. And so like, I had those moments to where I made light of it, but at the end of the day, I always got a lot of respect as being, hey, I'm the guy with the heart defect and I'm playing college soccer, Division III. It was Division III, but I'm still playing and you're normally fit and you're perfectly whatever, and I'm hanging with you. I did get a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. I mean, and your life has not been easy. Like, you know,
no.
Yes, you are my first. Yes, you are the chosen one. But you know, and we joke about that, but you know, you went from this in a very, you know, pretty much normal childhood, you know, all of those things,
very much
to going to college and dealing with a lot of things that kids deal with, but you kept going and you kept going. And I think I mentioned the depression because, you know, we were talking about the physical attributes of what a heart defect can feel like. And, you know, but you played soccer, but you walked to work. Like that one semester, you ended up without a car.
Oh, goodness.
You literally walked to work for hours.
I would walk for 2 hours to work. And because I couldn't get anybody to drive me to work, but I could get someone to drive me home.
Right.
So I would get out of class and I would get a ride from class back home, but I couldn't get a ride from home to work because the guy who took me from class to my apartment, he had to go to work. Right. So almost every day I would walk 2 hours. Yeah, I do remember that. For a semester, I walked 2 hours to work every single freaking day. And so, like, you look back and you think, okay, yes, I did struggle with depression. Could that have been my body being like, yo, you're tired.
Right.
Sit down.
Right.
Don't walk to work after soccer practice and going to class all day, you idiot boy. So, like...
Maybe.
So, like, yeah, maybe. Maybe that could have been something where my body was like, you need to slow down. 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 Did I listen? No, I didn't. Well, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, but I think you did listen on the other, you know, side of it.
On the emotional, on the emotional side of it, yes. Yeah. And then once I started to get and I was talking to my old roommate about this a couple of days ago. I was like, do you remember I would get a headache every day at noon? I would start getting a headache. Every single day at noon, I would start getting a headache. I didn't know why. I started looking into it. I was like, is it my eyesight? Is it my heart? Is it light? Because remember with the lights too, it was certain kind of lights immediately would get it. So I was thinking, it has to do with my eyesight, those type of things. And a lot of it was a mixture of those things, but most of it was my body trying to tell me, you need a break, bud.
Yeah.
You need a break.
Yeah. And parents can only do so much, because we were always over here going, Christopher, you don't have to be doing all the things. You were just 110% person, kid, and you're 110% person. Now, I mean, everything that you've ever done has always been with your absolute whole heart and soul. And, but that's resilience. Like, that's why this podcast exists. Like, you have to decide to practice the resilient part of it. And then when it's kind of like, okay, I'm overdoing it. Why am I overdoing it? But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't control, as far as like my physical, well-being and, all of those things. And it just, and you coached for a while, you coached soccer for a little while. So you had kids that looked up to you also. And, if you don't know like your own power of resilience, then you can't pass that on to other people. And, so you went in your 20s to a doctor's appointment, and then you didn't have to go back until like you wanted to, like there was like an update. You didn't go back until you needed to hear some reassuring things. So you went back when you were what, 29, 30?
28.
Okay.
28 or 27. So the last time I saw Dr. Johnson, and he has been my cardiologist all the way through.
The whole time. And we did get a cardiologist local, and we were all like, nah.
Nope. And also, one of the things that Dr. Johnson said, he's like, Chris, when you're not okay. He said, and when you're perfectly okay. He's like, there are some doctors and cardiologists who are going to look at you and be like, they're going to want to do everything under the sun to you. And he's like, don't let them do it. And he also said, he's like, there's some who are going to look at you and they're not going to want to touch you. He's like, hold them accountable, know what you can and you can't, he's like, know your rights for sure, know how far you can go, all of that. He's like, you stand up for yourself. He's like, find the middle of the road doctor who is going to let you be you, but still take care of you. So I was living in Mobile, and I had just gotten married at the time, and I had an appointment. I needed to go back to see the doctor. I was still having migraines. I was worried about some blood pressure stuff. I was really, really stressed with work. I had just gotten married. So like all of those kind of stress was just like, oh my goodness, going through me. I called him to make an appointment. He's like, hey, I've got a guy down there that I personally trained. He's like, why don't you go see him? And I was like, let me just drive up there to see you. And so it's what, a 3-hour drive from Mobile to Montgomery, and then an hour and a half from Montgomery to Birmingham. So I drove like 5 hours, 6 hours to go see this guy. I walked in there and we had gone over a few things. He's like, overall, Chris, he's like, you look great. He's like, I don't recommend going. At that point, I hadn't been to see him in like 7. It had been over 5 years. It'd been like over almost 7. I had gone when I was like 20, 21, and then I didn't go again until I was like 28. He's like, don't do that again. He's like, don't do that. But he was like, you look great. He's like, what are you experiencing? What is this? What is that? And I was like, I feel great. I said, but I get migraines and this, that, and the other. And I was like, is it, how's my blood pressure? And he's like, your blood pressure's fine. He's like, none of your migraine stuff is related to your heart. And I had a couple of other symptoms that I told him, and he was like, none of this is related to your heart. I hate to break your bubble. So turns out that through...
Sometimes we just want answers.
Yeah.
We want the easy answers.
So a no answer was good, but again, I had no idea what was wrong with me. Over the next couple of years, I ended up finding out that I never had my wisdom teeth taken out. So my wisdom teeth were pushing on the blood vessels behind my eyes. And that is what was causing me to have migraines daily.
Okay.
So I ended up having mouth surgery. Not only get those removed, but I ended up getting my teeth done. They're not mine, but they look really good. They look really good.
Yeah, you had every tooth in your head pulled.
Every single one pulled.
And you said instantly you felt
so turns out that it was not because I had heart surgery that my teeth were the way that they were. The dentist said that a lot of it was because, weirdly enough, he's like, you didn't drink enough milk. He's like, you didn't drink enough of a certain kind of water either that strengthens your teeth. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. He's like, I see this kind of teeth in people. And he named regions of the world and this, that, and the other, and all kind of stuff. But I ended up having mouth surgery that fixed the migraine problem. But in my late 20s, as a newly married guy, my heart defect was something that was kind of, you don't want to say it's almost not there, but it's almost not there. I mean, into adulthood, coming out of college, my heart defect was something where, you're at like the Christmas party at work and it's like, oh, let's learn something new about somebody. And it was like, yeah, I had open heart surgery. And everybody's like, you look totally normal. You behave totally normal. All of that kind of stuff. And never had any problems. On hard days, I would still feel tired. On stressful days, I would still feel very heavy. So that was still present. But through a normal day, I would get shaky under extremely stressful situations. Confrontations with my boss at work. At Chick-fil-A when I lived in Mobile, I would walk into the meeting. He's like, why are you shaking? I was like, it's my heart. We're good. We're good. And I remember there was a couple of times where I had gone and I had skipped a meal and I'm at work and I'm really pale. And my friend Walt looks at me and he goes, you look terrible. I said, I was like, I haven't eaten. I was like, I need to eat.
I'm good.
Yeah, you've got those situations that would come up where it's like, you don't eat for 8, 12 hours, whatever, because you skip a meal because something happens and you just have, that weighs on my body more. As I got older, that would weigh on my body more.
Because after your heart surgery at 2 months, they told me, you are good. You should not. Now your patch was going to grow with your heart. And then there was the things that they fixed, and the things they couldn't, they said that you would probably grow to understand them, which is what happened. There might be electrical issues with the rhythm, but there was never going to be plumbing problems with the leakage because the patch worked so well because you had the best surgeon. And so the diagnosis or prognosis was just awesome in your situation, but it still was like this wait and see thing, and it was like, what do Tetralogy of Fallot, what is it going to do? What is the repair going to do? And so I felt like as a family, we were just very blessed with the whole scenario.
So I remember going when I was 17. They actually asked me, they said, your repair is so seamless. Can we study you? And I remember looking at them and going, no.
Yeah, I remember. I also remember that either the 14 to 17, whatever appointment that was, they said, you cannot go back unless he says you can.
Yeah, they looked at you. They looked at you, and I was like,
that you were filling out the paperwork, you were doing all the things, and they were like, nope, he's of the age to where he is responsible for his own healthcare decisions. And I was like, what? Yeah. Do you mean to tell me that if he has to have a decision? You remember me, like, I was lecturing the world.
Yeah. She's standing up in the middle of the waiting room and being like, excuse me?
But remember when I asked you, I said, do you feel like if you are faced with a surgery or procedure, do you feel like you can make this decision on your own? And you're like, well, you're going back there with me. Like, you were like,
yeah.
of course you're going.
And I was like,
but it hit me. I was like, what? What is happening? Anyway, so bring us present day. Bring us present day to your life and what like you're doing now.
So after college, I was health-wise, graduated when I was 24. Graduated 24. Graduated when I was 24. Yep. And then I was 150 pounds, very fit, could run 6 miles, not even come out of breath. Just finished up soccer. I didn't play my senior year, but I still practiced with the guys. I did not play games. I was still very fit. Got married, 27, and then I started to lose muscle from college. I was working, and I was not working out. I was not paying attention to what I was eating. I still did not drink anything with caffeine except for sweet tea. I was a sweet tea addict.
You're from the South, baby.
Yes. And so I ended up, I started to drop a lot of weight. I dropped a ton of weight. I ended up going through a divorce, which was extremely stressful. And the stress weighed on my body extremely hard. And I dropped even more weight. I came out of my divorce, moved back home to Montgomery, to where you and Dad were, and started life over again. I was 117 pounds. I'd gone from 155 down to 117. You could see my ribs. I was extremely skinny, very unhealthy looking, but I was still in the 100%, not going to stop, in that very much just, I'm going to give everything that I have to whatever task is in front of me. I had a friend of mine, Joseph Woodfin. He was like, hey, you need to go to the gym. And I was like, why? And he was like, you're 118 pounds and you look unhealthy. Something needs to change. You're a heart patient. You need to start taking care of yourself. But you talk about depression, you talk about coming out of a divorce. I was very much not of the mind to do that.
Yeah.
I was very much at the part where I just didn't want to.
Yeah. Well, that's why you moved back here.
Yeah.
Because you had just plummeted into this
abyss of nothingness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember the day where an event happened on Facebook. It was that day where I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. And I went to the gym. So I started working out, and I have been working out now for almost 4 years. And it has been life-changing. To go from playing soccer to not really doing anything, losing the life that I thought that I had, starting over, and then really rebuilding. Coming out of that, the heart defect was more apparent at the lowest point because it was just something else that was wrong with me. Yeah. But coming out on the other end of it, it was, this isn't something that's wrong with me, this is me type of thing.
Yeah.
Coming out of it, going to the gym, eating good food, just changing my lifestyle, gaining weight again, and then getting back to where I am now, I am in the best shape of my life. I am at the point now to where it's like, it's night and day different. It's totally night and day different.
And I think anybody that knows you and spends time with you absolutely sees that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And the heart defect is there now after work. So I was working 8-hour shifts normally. Now I'm working 10-hour shifts, and there are hard days where I get home and I'm wiped. I'm tired. And I'll go, and people are like, you work a 10-hour shift, but then you still go to the gym? Yes, I work a 10-hour shift and then I still go to the gym. But there are still days where I'll come home from the gym and I'll have a little bit of that anxious feeling in my muscles still from the heartbeat. I'll still have a little bit of the kind of that tense feeling of where my muscles want to contract. They're wanting to, and you feel a little bit anxious. One of the things I've recently found that has only started the past year has been, remember how I used to always wear socks? I've gotten to where I like to be barefoot more.
What?
I don't know why that is. So my circulation circulation with my feet got super cold. I always wanted my socks. I always wanted my socks on, wanted my shoes on, because my feet were cold. Now, as soon as I get home, I will normally take my socks off, because there's something about the constriction around my ankles, and I will start to feel that anxious feeling. If I wear them too long, I start, if it's too tight, I'll get that anxious feeling from the circulation. Same thing with if you wear any dry fit boxers to work out with. They're normally all rubber, and they've got the rubber elastic. If I wear those too long, or if they're too tight, if they're too small, if they're too tight, I'll get the same kind of anxious feeling. And I know it's directly related to,
like, constriction.
Yeah, blood flow constriction, to where my heart's saying, you're prohibiting me.
Stop.
You're prohibiting me from pumping blood through this. I need to be able to pump blood through this. But that's only if I've had a really hard day.
Yeah.
Like a really hard day.
Well, looking back, I've enjoyed this, Christopher. Thank you.
Of course.
So looking back and thinking about, kids growing up, or, even a young adult, that has, some kind of diagnosis, not just Tetralogy of Fallot, giving them some encouragement about it, what would you tell them?
So this is how I'll do it in two parts. I'll say, this is how I viewed mine and what I did, and here's my encouragement to you. When I was 19, I was at college at 19, just stepping out into the world, had no idea what was going on. But I really started to take a self-reflection of myself, because I was unique. I was different. I was very confident. I was 100%, and I had a heart defect. You start to think, why have things happened to me the way that they have up to this point, and what is the reason for it? Why? A lot of people, especially in the teenage years and even in college, early college, you're asking why. The reason for, my why of my heart defect was not for me. And I don't want to cry on this either.
No. Okay.
But it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. My heart defect was so that my mother, my father, my church, our friends, our family, the people that were around us,
to know and understand that God is good. And you don't really understand that as a kid. You don't understand that as a teenager. But as a young adult, you can kind of begin to grasp that you are used as a tool, and you have to come to terms with, this is the path that was chosen for you. It was not one that you chose. You definitely have to come to terms with that. You definitely have to come to terms with, I would not have chosen this for myself. But the things that this has brought about, and the impact that this has brought about to the people that are around me, and from, childhood through middle school to high school, even into adulthood, and even now, the impact for people around me, there's no way it can be measured at all. But you have to end up taking that, you got to be that humble, or else you'll get bitter. You get very bitter. You can be, whatever kind of diagnosis it may be. I mean, it can be anything. But anything that happens to you that you did not choose, you can definitely become bitter about it. Understanding that, for me, was so liberating. That I didn't choose this. I didn't want this. But this is me. This is who I am. God put this on me because He wanted to be able to use me to teach somebody else something. That is the way that I view mine. My encouragement to anybody with a defect, and I hate the word defect, but anybody with any kind of pre-diagnosed condition, anything, I would encourage you to research it first. know what you have. I'm not very good with the technical mumbo jumbo, the medical definitions of stuff. I'm terrible with it, and I know that throughout this we probably butchered multiple things. But research it so that you kind of know and you kind of understand. Hey, this is what it is, and this is the way it affects me. Try to find and see how you can live your life to the most point that is you, to where you're not fitting in someone else's definition of this is what a heart patient should be. This is what a fill in the blank patient should be. You are you.
Right.
And God has very much a path for you to walk yourself that no one else defines but you. And that is what you can do. And if you choose to view your life like that, you will definitely be able to look back and be like, yeah, this was definitely what I was meant to be. I mean, being able to look at yourself and say, I am comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with what I am. I am absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, do not regret a single thing. Because people ask me, they're like, if there's something about your life that you could change, what would you change? 50 more pounds of muscle would be nice. A 12-pack? No, not really. Honestly, and every time I tell them, not a thing. Because this is the path that was chosen for me. I regret nothing. I regret absolutely nothing.
Because I think as parents, and thank you, that hit me. Because I think as parents, we think, what did we do to cause this? Like, was it the pregnancy?
Yeah.
Was it, something developmental? Did I drink one too many Mountain Dews? And, some things just happen. It's tough to even forgive yourself for something that there was just no control. There was just no control over. And I've always said that, throughout, my young adult life and throughout y'all's lives, because we were close in age. I was 19 when I had you. We go through things for reasons, and God is just really good at helping us grow ourselves and helping us really heal through sharing our experiences, with others. And that's just really, and you found that really young in your life. And, it's been, and yes, you're mine, and I don't want to sound biased, but, you really have had a roller coaster of some things in your life, and have, you are, very brave and strong through some things that I probably would have quit a long time ago. And I'm thankful for you. I am. Well, thank you for spending time with your mama today. We could go on part 2 and part 3, but we're going to end it there. And I'm just going to thank you. And whoever's listening, I hope found something in this today that they could carry with them and encouragement. And so we'll just talk to you soon, kiddo. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you follow me on TikTok at Tracidoula4 or Instagram at Tracidoula, you know how I like to dig into the deep conversations. If you don't follow me on those places, you should, as well as this podcast. As we lean into honest conversations, especially the hard ones, remember that your journey has power and your healing lights the way for others. The work you're doing ripples further than you know. If you'd like to work with me, whether it's coaching or childbirth classes or workshops if you're a professional, or mentoring, or maybe even speaking at an event, visit Tracidoula.com. And if today's conversation spoke to you, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Reach out anytime through email at hello@Tracidoula.com, and feel free to leave a comment. Until next time, move forward with intention and keep your power in the process.